Thursday, Vladimir Putin compared himself to none other than Peter the Great, the Russian Tsar, and suggested that his own mission as president was to return and restore land that belonged to Russia, just like his hero did in the 18th century. It seems to me that in recent days and weeks, Putin has been having more success in his war effort, but I wanted to check my math on that. So joining me now is CNN's senior international correspondent, Matthew Chance. Matthew, give us a sense of Russia's gains in the east, which appear to be happening around Severodonetsk right now.
That's right. I mean, the gains are very slow, but every day we're seeing reports coming from Severodonetsk, which is the last city that is nominally under Ukrainian government control in the Luhansk region. Luhansk is half of Donbass, remember, and Donbass is what the Russians say is their military priority at the moment. Every day we're seeing reports coming out of it, a little bit more Russian advancing, there's a bit of to and froing on the ground, but it seems a question of when, not if, that important key city will fall completely under Russian control. The Ukrainians, for their part, seem to be making it as difficult as possible, bringing the fight to a street-to-street level to, on the one hand, neutralize the artillery advantage that the Russians have, but also to making it as painful as possible for the Russians to declare what would be a big political victory for them when they take eventual control over that city. And of course, to divert Russian resources. This is a battle for that Luhansk region that has cost not just the Ukrainians, but the Russians enormously. And of course, the more military personnel and material they put in to that battle, that fight, the less they're able to defend other areas that they've conquered elsewhere in Ukraine. And to some extent, the Ukrainians say they've been exploiting that by launching counteroffensives in the south of the country, for instance, over the past several weeks. But also it's depleting Russia's sort of energy as well. And so I think that the sense is that when this phase of the battle, of this conflict, comes to a close, when it eventually does that, there may well be a natural pause as both sides regroup and work out what they're going to do next and gather forces in order to do that. Fareed.
Matthew, very briefly, we know about Russian casualties, but the Ukrainian government doesn't tell us much about their casualties. And what I'm hearing is they are pretty substantial as well. I've heard reports that say perhaps even 100 a day. And if you talk about deaths, you multiply that by 3 to get casualties, injured, soldiers that can't return to the battlefield. Do you have any sense of how tough this has been for Ukraine and Ukrainian soldiers?
Well, I mean, it's clearly being very tough indeed, not least because of the way in which on the battlefield Ukrainian forces are outnumbered and outgunned by the Russian side. And that figure of 100 soldiers a day being killed, I mean, that comes from the president himself, President Zelensky himself. That's the estimate that he's put out there. You extrapolate that over a month, it's 3,000 a month, which is an enormous cost. And other people in the presidential office have said it's actually much higher than that. It could be 200 people dead a day, which would be 6,000 a month. It's an enormously high price, whichever way you cut it, that the Ukrainians are paying just in terms of loss of life, never mind the injuries and the loss to their infrastructure, to defend this country. But as you say rightly, the Russians are also paying a big price. Tens of thousands, it's estimated, of Russian troops have been killed. The Russians haven't spoken directly on that really since the beginning of this conflict. I think, so one of the differences, though, is that actually, despite those heavy losses, Ukraine doesn't have a shortage of manpower. It has a lot of men that have been mobilized that are willing to go to the front. Russia has much more of a problem in that regard.
Matthew, thank you so much. Always so insightful to hear from you. Next on GPS, the chief of the International Atomic Energy Agency on Iran and the nuclear deal, what may be a fatal blow to reviving it.